Hello, human. Welcome back to Boiler Weekly Live Code Jam Session. Looks like the stream has just begun because savamala wrote the word streaming. And we get wine glasses. Ooh, interesting. Why not start with a glass of wine today? On Punctual, I did see this dot floating around in a circle. Let me see if I can, for the first time, try to read some Punctual code while it's still short. We have coordinates, bracket to R, T, X, Y. Okay, I'm done. There's a word circle there. clpa bringing in another wine glass, this time with some more specific pitches. Oh, I see a spiral. Classic radial plot of incrementing theta. I can tell you that from the map, and savamala is doing it using this punctual code. Ooh, we have dissonance here. We have the E flat against the D, which gives us a semitone distance using 12-tone Western harmony, considered to be a dissonant interval, and here it builds up some tension for us as the set begins. Out of this ethereal nothingness. Yeah, we see the total textures getting louder. The emergent loudness, I believe, is due to the increased number of simultaneous notes, which is 2 currently. There's the top S line, and then there's the bottom note line. clpa now bringing in an alto recorder, Legato, which means short samples as opposed to long samples. Everything's running through a low-pass filter, which is keeping it dark and murky. Gives us a lot of room later to expand. savamala is now modulating this spiral over time. Looks like using zoom as a modulation technique. The wine glasses are now revealing a chord progression, or suggesting a chord progression, I should say. You can't really call it a chord because there's no more than 2 notes at once, and one of them is entirely static. But it is enough to push us through time with some perspective or sense of change on harmony. This new line coming in -5024. So that looks like we are using the tonic, the supertonic, the major third, and the perfect fifth. -5 is a perfect fifth down, transposed down by a fourth. 0 is the tonic, 2 is the supertonic, major second up, 4 is a major third up. So this is going to outline a major triad, basically, plus the second. So you can think of this as a major 9 chord. Oh, but he's putting in minor. So by selecting these, or they, sorry, I don't know the pronouns of this person, but because we're selecting minor, we're just going to change that interpretation of those numbers from chromatic indices to scale indices. This can be a tricky thing in Strudel. This is definitely a very Strudel thing to do. We're basically overloading the integers to represent. In this case, we're representing an index into an array of scale tones. Generally, whenever we talk about chromatic notation, the numbers 0 through 11 represent pitch classes, which is not an index. It is easy to confuse it with an index, but it's membership in a pitch class. Here, whenever we apply it to a scale, now the number does become an index value. Great, this recorder has a low pass filter of 10,000, which makes it a lot easier to hear. And we have now a new sine wave coming in on the right with Swan. Hi, Swan! Oh, barnach. This is a new livecoder entering as well. We got a couple latecomers. You are here in time at the beginning. Hard to call it late when we've just started. I see savamala is translating the XY plane, or something like that. This mysterious punctual code. Right in front of my face, yet so cryptic to me. Beautiful. I need another voice here to talk all about the punctual. Who can do that? Whoa, what was that? Got some FM in there. That is a nice sound, and the decay on it as well as giving a very good contour. So decay describes how long the sound is allowed to exist. 0.4 means 0.4 seconds on the right hand side where Swan is working right now. And I strongly recommend putting decay on every note. Every line should have a decay value. Because it puts a boundary on the note event so that you have you're more easily able to position it in sound space, control when it appears and how it appears. You can do that with the decay. And Swan also added a delay. 0.3 means that it is 30% into the mix. This delay sync function is interesting. My interpretation is, oh, hello Janeishly, evening and morning to you too. Wow, finally we have a full house today. Okay, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 name tags here. Great, welcome everybody, welcome all. So glad you are here. So delay sync, yeah, if you've seen this before, drop in the comments, let me know what this is. I'm going to have to look it up myself. Ooh, the sultry staccato makes another appearance. Wow, that was a loud cello. Viola, maybe? Nice. Love a good texture contrast. Violin on the bottom right with Swan. I mean, Swan did turn the gain down to 0.5. It's just, even though it's at half the volume, it still is the loudest gain on the mix. On the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, it doesn't have any gain expressions, but the sample is being filtered. So that's going to take away a lot of its volume, and also it's probably a low energy sample compared to the violin. The wine glass is quieter. Savamala, this is a really interesting, as a math nerd, I just love how abstract and clean these, like in black and white, right? It's no color, it's just plots, continuous plots, which is super cool and hard to do. Continuous plots like this. Really, really nice. The melody, the melodic composition overall feels pretty melancholic right now. This is due to the tempo and key signature and articulation. So let me break down each of those things. Oh, Savamala, you're doing such cool things to my eyes today. This series of dots looks now like a radius that is origin of the bottom left screen, but there's all these other lines coming through. It makes me so happy. I love abstract geometries. But the melancholic nature currently is due to this down tempo, right? It's maybe 80 or 90 BPM. Can we even... Oh, should I try to predict the BPM? No. Do I see a low-pass filter call anywhere? Sorry, do I see a CPS? Yeah, there's no tempo call anywhere, so we're using default tempo right now. Default tempo is basically 60 BPM, or 120 BPM, which is very slow. Basically every beat is 1 second, which is not a natural tempo. Most music does not use this tempo. And so that's one reason it feels melancholic, is because it's just slower than most music is presented. Another is the long tones. We hear these wine glasses are now serving as an organ with a room that CLPA put on the second wine glass room 2 call. That's a reverb effect. That reverberation now makes this feel very organ-like. So it's creating a pad texture. And on the right-hand side, these violins are using sustained notes as opposed to staccato notes. Staccato notes are easier for our ears to interpret and predict compared to legato, long-drawn notes, because the staccato notes have a clear transient, and our ears like to be able to predict transients. But with the long notes, we can't predict when they're going to end as easily to the short notes with a clear transient. And that creates a little bit more work for your brain, which decreases the amount of dopamine you get. So, those are a few reasons why this feels melancholic at the moment. Let's see what else is going on. CLPA has hopped over to join Swan in the bottom right cell, bringing in a literal organ now. So we're doing a combination of the violin and organ together. Let's look more at that pattern. The IRAND 10 calls, .fast2, .struct. So here that is sending in a note to select from rest or 1. And the one below it will select from 1 or rest, but adds 7 to it. So it's always going to be playing notes that are a perfect fifth up. Apologies. IRAND 10 is the note generator. Struct is the rhythm sequencer, which mutes some entries and allows others to pass through. It acts like a gate. And they're being sent into the C minor scale. Randomness might also be a contributor as to why it's melancholic. Again, our brain loves to predict, and if we can't predict the next note, we lose the option for dopamine. Our brain can tell that we're in C minor, and all the notes land in C minor, so that's a nice consistent texture, which enables us to feel like cohesive music. If those were random notes not in C minor, but just random any note, it would feel a lot... Yeah, there would be even less dopamine. But there's enough dopamine now that it's satisfying, and if we wanted to increase the dopamine, we might change it from a random pattern to a static pattern, or change some harmonic entries. Right now, everything's been C minor the entire performance. That's one of the problems of using the scale function is it sticks you in a scale. So then you have to pattern a scale in order to get some harmonic modulations. Bringing a clap in. Again, we're still at the default tempo of 60 beats per minute, so this kind of just exaggerates the dirge effect. It feels like a funeral march. I'm going to start calling out, being very vocal about tempo setting. We don't need to use the default tempo. There's plenty of other tempos, and there's a lot of good ones. Oh, we have some texty commentary by Barnach. I hear claps. Audio working for you and visuals still blocked. Yep, no, I haven't blocked it yet. Oh, we're troubleshooting. Yes, it's not an Algorave unless there are some technical audio-visual issues to work through, so I'm glad that's happening and we're getting it worked out. Haven't blocked any yet, seeing if we can manage. Sometimes it's okay. Yes, and savamala does such pretty visuals. Savamala does do pretty visuals. Like right now, it's just such a cool radial texture. clpa is bringing in the high notes. Okay, C7. It's got a sounds like a triplet rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, now it's back to duple. I was looking for what caused the triplet, but I was counting instead. It might be the segment function, the arguments to it. Yep. Now it's 3 again, we're back to triple space. This creates a hemiola pattern, a 3 against 2. One of the most simple forms of syncopation, periodic syncopation. Janeishly has entered the mix. Hello and welcome. We got clap and hats. Great. Ooh, nice. Ah, interesting. Achieved by an echo or delay effect. Oh, echo is not the same as delay. Echo is, Echo operates on note data. Delay works on audio data. So here the arguments to echo are 3, 1/16, and 0.4. 3 represents the number of times we're going to copy the note. 1/16 represents the time between the notes. And 0.4 represents the amount to turn down every successive note by. So the third note is actually 0.4 to the third power. The second note would be 0.4 to the second power. And those are smaller numbers. The first note is just 0.4, right? So the first echo has 40% of the original volume. The second echo has 16% of the original volume. And the third echo has 0.4 times 16% of the, it's the quietest. Thanks for the reminder, Janeishly. I should actually use this one more often than delay because it has a much better set of arguments, I think. It's already tuned to cycles, and I think that second argument represents cycles, or at least Janeishly wants it to represent cycles like I do. It is possible that it represents seconds, like so many other functions here, so that is something that we need to double check. The texture overall feels coherent, strangely coherent, but also very empty. Despite this very loud pulse that came in. It's an interesting texture. Because there appears to be enough temporal spacing between the note events. There's not, for example, a dense pocket of time followed by empty pockets in dead space, silence. There seems to be a fairly even distribution of events over time, in real time, that is. I'm describing the overall mix of everything together, and how often notes are showing up, note events are showing up, and how they interact, and the relative spacing between them. Okay, we are now at the loudest moment for sure. So far, the mix has been a crescendo entirely to this point. It has only been increasing in volume up to this point. One of those plucks is starting to get annoying as these other instruments are updating and adding a lot more melodic drive and interesting sounds. There's one that is kind of an old sound now, and it sounds out of tune maybe. It doesn't sound as coordinated to the new entries. I hope we can update that soon. Let's see what is going on the top right where it says Super Saw. Okay, so this is still the C minor pattern. It looks like the instrument sound has been updated. And Swan is adding a new detune call now. So let's just kind of run through this whole stack of effects. So first is Irand. We already talked about Irand earlier. Segment is going to chunk it up into 4 sampleable sequences, I believe. .s is the sound selector, so here we're choosing this sound Super Saw. Then .rib. I have no idea what this means. I have never seen it before and have no context on what rib means here. .gain is the input amplitude adjustment, so we're going to turn down the sound by 30% before we even play it. You can do that because it's a sample. Decay means that this sound is allowed to last for 0.4 seconds, which is still the same decay. I would recommend changing the decay values so that your instrument sounds like a new instrument. Or, even better, patterning the decay so that we can have a more dynamic instrument. Then we have .add, and it looks like we're adding notes. This .add is adding a random note between -1 and 1. Oh, and by segmenting it into 8 regions, we're actually adding quarter values. I think this is the thing that I was calling out earlier, the annoying pluck, because those are the detune. That's where the detune is coming from. We're adding, for example, 0.5 or -0.5, 0.25 or 0.75 minus 0.75, and because it's happening randomly, it is disorienting my ears. Then we have .fm. .fm is a frequency modulation synthesizer, so this is changing the Super Saw sample, or overwriting it. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, I guess we're done there. Okay, so below that we have SBD. Looks like that's a sample of, usually BD is bass drum. I'll have to check what SBD represents. Mask is an interesting function. I don't know what it does, but it's doing something. Orbit is a function that puts this on its own audio channel. That means whenever it has effects, perhaps later, it'll take delay and reverb arguments on its own instead of borrowing delay or reverb arguments from anyone else on Orbit 1. But it doesn't have any effects. It does have a duck call on it, and duck is kind of like a wizard doing remote control over the entire room, because duck applies to everything that it is the first argument. And because the first argument here is 1, that means anything that doesn't have an explicit orbit. So I suppose that the Orbit 2 call is working because it takes this SBD out of the duck call, but it also, this one line is mutating all the other lines by doing some amplitude modulation to them. You wouldn't want to do this, for example, if you had a 4-fret melody that you really wanted to make more important than the kick drum. Because basically what duck is going to do is describe whatever is not being ducked. The things that are being ducked are less important compared to the thing that is not ducked, is what we're saying. We infer that because duck is removing amplitude, it's removing volume from everything that is not the other stuff, in this case the kick drum. I'm going to have to find a better terminology, like left or right, or input and maybe source and target, source and destination. Source, the kick drum is the source, and everything else is the target of duck. This is common, it's not wrong. This is a normal thing to do in techno music. The question is, are we all making techno music? Usually. I mean, I'm being facetious, I suppose. I just think it's polite to mutate locally. These mass global effects can be... we need to be aware of what we're working with when there's more than one person on the mixer. Okay, we've been on the right-hand side for a while. Okay, on the left-hand side, we have still an original wine glass. That glass of wine is still here from the beginning. The filter has been raised. It was below around 100 or 200, and now we're all the way up to 1,500. And we're also transposing it up by 2 octaves. Sounds like Schoenberg is playing the sawtooth wave here. Janeishly is bringing in a really amazing beat here on the rim. This feels like some Berlin techno to me. Janeishly, they've been doing really nice work on some beat elements, contributing the hi-hats earlier, and I think doing some other cool stuff while I was distracted by this right-hand cell. Wow, this background is very... So savamala right now has a series of repeated or radial patterns that are points and are... Yeah, the pacing on this one is definitely a lot easier to grok. Sometimes the visuals can be very stimulating and distracting. These feel very breath-oriented. Like, it feels like the pacing of modulation is more similar to how long I might be breathing in or breathing out. and the colors are changing slow enough that it doesn't take away from the ability to read the code. I also haven't noticed any compression issues in terms of the overall image. The organ, I just gotta say, the organ came in. I'll get back to that in a bit. And what I mean by image resolution is that the text is entirely legible. At no point has the text become pixelated. We dropped the kick out. The kick has left the... Oh, here it comes again? Yeah, that was a nice moment. It's good to do that. And it replaced with a new rhythm. We now have this Euclidean rhythm, which is really cool. Okay, the organ came in. Let's see if that was actually an organ or was it something else. I see some sign at the bottom. That's my best guess as to what it was. Or the top left wine glass is the next. Oh, clpa is showing me that you can underscore samples. What? Nice. Tubular bells, they're classic. My organ, I have a Wurlitzer organ, and it has a bells preset, which sounds exactly like that. So what's going on is that instead of using even harmonics, it uses odd harmonics, and that creates a bell sound. And even further, it might be non-integer harmonics. It might be instead of like 5, 7, 11, 12, it might be 5.5, 7.3, 9.2, and that's what gives it the really characteristic bell sound. This beat is super clutch right now. This feels cool. I think this is the first time that we're actually locking into 60 BPM well. It now feels like 120 BPM. Those bells are awesome, someone says. Wow, this is so cool. Vibraphone coming in. I can't wait to see what this will do. Janeishly is giving it some notes. E7. Nice. That is a pretty high note. It's going to be in the same space as the C7 sign on the right. There it is. Oh, looks like it's also a C7 now. So now it's in almost the exact same space. It has the same pitch class, but it's offset by 1 octave. The best way I can describe pitch class is if you're in the complex plane, rotating about the unit circle, and if you've completed one rotation, if we're not flat, if we're now in a complex plane that can be more spiral-like, progressing over time, every octave is like a new segment of the spiral. So you can think of octaves as literal distance on that spiral. 6 and 7 are right next to each other. They're two sheets next to each other in the complex plane. They're right next door sheets. But 1 and 7, they're pretty far away on that stretched out slinky. This feels like a rave. Rave. The collective improvisations of Swan, clpa, savamala, and janeishly have brought us to this rave. Now barnach adds a woodblock. the kick drum has been omitted. Swan used the underscore method to basically mute those channels. Computationally, I believe it also prevents them from being... It's different from a mute because you can do a mute by gain 0 or post gain 0. But underscoring prevents the notes from being rendered at all, which saves on computation. Oh, lovely, that bass drop. Since the kick drum is gone, it's so effective. I'm so thankful to see that most of the randomness has been removed from notes. Frankly, notes is not a place to put randomness. Unless you have constricted it to a small set of notes, a tiny scale, a tiny gamut, maybe 3 to 5 possibilities. Please do not randomize your notes, unless you really know what you're doing. It can work on percussion. It is more permissible to randomize notes on percussion because percussion doesn't contain as much pitch data. It's more like bursts of noise, more like a Dirac impulse, whereas note data represents a topic. Note data, you can think of note data as literal words. And harmony, every chord is a certain collection of words. Every chord is a group of words that work together, and other chords have maybe similar words that can work with those previous ones, but not all chords can work together at the same time. You can put 3 chords together, but the results are going to converge towards noise. They will converge towards a sound, a stationary signal which has no parsable value. This rhythm is really, I feel like I've got a really nice train of thought here because of how the rhythm is so well structured. This beat is really groovy. Thank you for this hi-hat pattern, janeishly. Yeah, so one thing that I've noticed here is instead of operating a number of different lines at once, janeishly appears to be taking the approach of working on one line, mostly one line at a time, but providing continuous, meaningful updates to that line, which is a pattern I would like to see more often in live coding. It is kind of hard to do that as a soloist, but it actually makes a lot of sense in this environment. So I think that's what I'll try next time. Oh no! Oh yay! Restored. Is it that time? Is it that time whenever audio starts glitching? Alright, let's reevaluate. Beautiful visualizations. Uh-oh. We have a cowbell! Where is that cow? Where is it? Oh, a go-go. I think it was Barnach's a go-go. Matthew Caney wrote a song about I want to go to the Algorave, and I think he used the Agogo sample for it from Tidal Cycles. This sound is very discomforting, unnerving. The overall composition, oh, finally a tempo change. So we were at 120, and like a DJ, we are smoothly, tiny increments up to tempo. 120 to 125 is a pretty small tempo boost that is going to be hard for the audience to notice, especially since you get to do it instantly in Strudel. You could be a little bit more smooth even by doing discrete units, 120, 121, 122, 123, 24, 25. Or even smaller if you have the patience for it. Depends on how much you want the audience to tell that you're changing time. The passage of time. That's a really cool clap. Oh, timpanis! Timpani, funny. I can tell that the timpani is playing on in Western music we call it the 7th degree, so if you're in C major it would be a B if the key is C. Oh no, on an F, it's on the tritone, sorry, it's on like an F sharp. Which gives us a very like quirky, oh nice, whoa, for a moment it was to the tonic. New sounds coming in. Love to hear new sounds come in. That's the tonic I heard. So I think it just masked the timpani. It didn't take away the timpani or change the timpani, but it was louder than it, and it therefore masked it. And the timpani is now removed. Aw, cute. Something sounds very distorted. Oh my goodness. Very bright. We are now in upper harmonics lands. Barnach introducing some new notes. Oh, this is a really cool sound. It's the tubular bells again. I see Barnach introducing a perfect 5th in the bass region. We're going to give it some rhythm. Looks like alternating off and on. And because there's no sound assignment, we'll use the default sine as the sound. More audio glitches. I'm not sure what's causing the audio issues right now. Syntax errors don't do that, but they do prevent you from evaluating code that would produce sound. The glitches, I don't see anything alarming in the code right now. There's not a lot of parts, for example. The patterns are not terribly complex. I always do have to say question mark, is it the viz? I don't know, but it's just always a possibility. This is really nice. Oh, Barnach changed that 5th. That 5th gives this, that's what makes it so nice. Because before it was all upper harmonics, and while they're well ordered, they're patterned reasonably, it's still kind of like having your head in the clouds without being grounded. And now we're grounded by this perfect 5th in the bass. On a piano now, the electric piano sound. Gives it a much more interesting character than just a perfect 5th. It also gives a lot more visibility because when it's just sine waves, it's literally 2 bare naked sine waves in all of sound space. But this e-piano, if we were to run it through a spectrum, we'd find a much more rich image, which means that the sine waves now have a lot more clothing to, or maybe more friends, more naked friends to be in sound space with. Either way works. This mid-range voice is very nice. It's playing chords. We also have a kalimba that is very easy to hear. We find randomness on it, but it's randomness within a major scale, right? So that is permissible. Still less preferred compared to a pattern that might have some small variance, right? Basically, the maximum amount of randomness you can have is 50%. There's some studies that show how much we can tolerate or how much we enjoy variance, the novelty of change in music, and the maximum amount you can do is half. So when you use something that's an entirely 100% random, it actually detracts from our ability to enjoy it. In the top left, we have added a transposition call, so now it is going down an octave every other beat. I'm wondering why the rest is never highlighted. It has a minus and an X, but only the X is ever highlighted. The transposition is alternating them because it uses angle brackets. The struct uses square brackets to create a local group that should iterate both still, because it sends one event, right? This beat, where did this beat come from? Beat in a box. Nice. Wow, that is a pattern? Impressive. I thought that was like, sometimes people are dropping in like full samples of a beat and it'll be the entire sample pre-recorded, but Swan composed a interesting pattern. This is a really interesting thing to see. It says it says bass drum, hi-hat, snare drum, hi-hat, bass drum, snare drum, hi-hat. Nice. Cowbell. CB cowbell. Right below we have this chord evocation. We're constructing chords C and C and C and G. A very C space today. I'm composing a piece called My Ears Are Hungry. It does temporal modulations. So in the same way that you can have a perfect fifth in harmony, you can have a perfect fifth in tempo too. For example, changing from time 100 to time 150 or time 50. Those are all related by 2/3 and 3/2 relationship. And that'll be one of the key things that we do in My Ears Are Hungry. But it's also in C major. It ventures into F major and G major because those are what you get when you modulate time and tempo simultaneously from C major. This is a really cool sound overall. Right now in this live code composition, it has this kind of like, oh wow, it just feels so 80s altogether. The whole composition reminds me of the 80s, or imagery of the 80s, because the background is this awesome purple and blue. I don't know how to describe this. We have a bunch of planes, parallel planes, that have been projected into space so that they have some perspective. With the electric piano, I think that's what's driving the 80s reminiscence, is this electric piano sample Barnach is giving us. Janeishly's asking a question. How on earth, to savamala, how on earth are you producing all of that with such a small amount of code? Savamala responds, the magic of punctual. Yes. Huzzah for punctual. A nice wrapper around math, my favorite, algebra. It's great, savamala says. Janeishly is constantly amazed by the economy of it. the beat is super clean. I can definitely tell where the beat is. It's not ambiguous as to where the drum beat is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Enjoying the music. Let's just rave for a bit. I heard you, Kalimba. Slow it down. 115. 110. I think that's a good move. I think it is wrapping up. We are about 50 minutes into the mix for an hour-long jam. Yeah, you usually have two options. You can ramp it up or tone it down. You're only going to want to ramp it up if there's someone coming after you, or if it's like, you know, midnight or 1 a.m. and there's still something going on until 2 or 3, 4 a.m. Or later. But because this is closing and there's nothing after it, I think slowing down makes sense. See, I love how complex this pattern is, and yet it's so predictable. Wet. Yes. Low pass Q to bring in the acid. Low pass Q represents the resonance of the filter, how much is being fed back into the filter at that filter frequency. So whatever the value of the frequency filter, which is currently 300, that's where we're going to get the resonance. If the low pass Q is more than 20, then it would be even more resonant. Resonance tends towards white noise, but because it's only at a small band, we get this really characteristic sound instead. White noise typically requires the full spectrum or a large collection of frequencies. But this filter effect, which I call acid and which many other people call acid, is basically localized white noise. Frog bass. Yes, localized frog bass. It is a good reminder that so many sounds, so many synthesizer sounds that we love tend to evoke nature in some way. It can be easy to forget how crazy and wild nature can sound. I live right next to the base of a beautiful butte, Kelly Butte, and I'm blessed that it sounds like a natural bird sanctuary. So every morning, there's an orchestra of birds, and they serenade me. Chirp, chirp. Those are a few bird sounds that I might hear in the morning. Sometimes they can be staccato, like ply 3, ply 5. Sometimes they're very long and drawn out, like slow 4 with an attack value, or duck value. But sometimes they sound like an FM synthesizer, and it's all just birds. We also have frogs and other reptiles. We have mammals. We have things that growl and things that hiss, things that purr, creatures that purr, creatures that breathe underwater. So many ways to make sound. So good. Yes. Brave. CLPA and Swan. 4 hands are better than 2. That's an ableist assumption. You don't need 2 hands to be a live coder. You might even be able to try using speech to text. Background has some depth to it. On the outer, it looks like on the outer region we have this very soft and round, but in the inner region we have a very crisp, linear, square, rectangular presentation. It's a really cool juxtaposition, and the colors are just so gorgeous. They're the pastels of pink and orange and purple and yellow, amber. Bass is now very FM. We've removed the acid by, I see that the low pass Q is modulated, and you can hear that. Now that is a proper acid, to have it animated. Here it goes from 5 to 20. We've lost some sound, it'll come back momentarily. So yeah, very, very nice. I was just lost in how amazing everything was altogether. And we also see that it patterns the low pass frequency value from 80 to 100 to 400 to 1500. This is basically changing that localization of noise, we're changing where that localization happens. So we're both attenuating how much, minimizing and maximizing it, and changing where it happens, translating it. So it's both a translation and a offset, or amplification. We have some comments. It was a good jam, good night. Went through some good vibes. Super cool. Thanks for coming. Thanks. Hope it was bearable for you all. So, yes, thank you, savamala, for being so considerate. It does help a lot. I know it's constraints can be constraining sometimes, but it's the joy of maximizing from in the bounds. The rest of the comments. Oops, CPM of 0. Sorry. Maybe that was the cause of some bug earlier. Visual is lovely. Thanks very much. Yes, very much so. Yes, all wonderful vibes, wonderful time, amazing music and art. Everyone. Oh, for someone else, it's 11 p.m. For others, it's morning, so you never know when someone's going to be jamming. Music can happen any time of day, and so can art. I hope that you'll join in sometime into this block session. You can find access to that in the description. There's a link to Discord, which takes you to the live coding Discord, and there's also a link to the original video without commentary. You can get it there in the description. Thank you, janeishly, clpa, Swan, and savamala for your barnach as well. Yeah, new live code. For me, my ears, first time hearing today from janeishly. I feel like I've seen barnach before, perhaps as a pop-in. But yeah, also more newcomers from my perspective. clpa and Swan and savamala certainly are the regular vibe creators here. So far, in my small entry point into this 3-year saga. I believe this is an ongoing event now for 3 years, and I foresee myself commentarying as long as that I may be granted and able to do so. Thank you all for the amazing visuals and music. Until next time, good game.